You ever wonder what happens if you don't chase an ex after a breakup? Well, I spent the better part of 2 days figuring that out for you. And really what's interesting is I came up with a new psychological concept that kind of explains what's going on when you do chase an ex versus when you don't chase an ex. So today we're going to dive into the psychology of what happens when you don't chase an ex, starting with understanding what the pedestal effect is, how it can change over time, the biggest mistake our clients make, and finally, why you really can't pretend to move on from an ex if you want to raise the chances of them begging for you back. But first things first, what is it that actually happens when you don't chase an ex? And I think really it goes down to your ex's assumption of what your state of mind is after the breakup. So your ex is naturally going to assume the following thing. They're going to assume that when they break up with you, you are obsessing about them, and therefore they're going to place you below them on this metaphorical pedestal. So by not chasing them, you actually give yourself the opportunity to regain leverage that you would have lost otherwise. And really it all revolves around this concept called the pedestal effect. So what is the pedestal effect? Every single romantic relationship that we have is going to revolve around this metaphorical pedestal. So there are 3 layers or 3 elements or 3 placements to the pedestal. You can either place people above you on the pedestal, equal to you on the pedestal, or below you on the pedestal. But let's just talk about people who are above you on the pedestal. Generally speaking, when someone's above you on the pedestal, they are unobtainable but respectable. So often you'll hear me talk about people who are ungettable. These are often people who you have placed on your more metaphorical pedestal elements above you. But then you have the people who are equal to you. These are people who are obtainable but also respectable. And then of course you have the people who are below you. People who are obtainable but you don't respect. Now, the dream for every single person who goes through a romantic relationship is to always date someone that they think is above them, that they have placed on a pedestal. So essentially, you're punching above your weight class, so to speak. And really, I'm going to use myself as a good guinea pig example here so you can kind of understand how the pedestal effect really works. Imagine you were given the choice to date one of 2 people. You can date yours truly, or you can date Brad Pitt. Who do you choose? Now, how you place people on a pedestal, whether me or Brad Pitt, isn't going to be revolving solely around looks. We all know I have Brad beat in that category. There's a little bit more to it than that. In fact, I think one of the best ways that we can learn how we kind of place people on pedestals is by looking at the interdependence theory. So think of it like this. We all make commitment-based decisions on 6 type of criteria. How satisfied we are in relationships. Is there a better alternative out there for us than the person that we're currently with? How much have we invested into the relationship? Are we afraid to lose this person? How scarce is this person? Is there an urgent reason to need to commit to this person? All of this factors into where you place people on pedestals, but specifically those first 3 criteria. Satisfaction, alternatives, and investment. So me and Brad Pitt. Obviously, you're probably going to be a little bit more satisfied with Brad Pitt. He brings more to the table than I can. I am not some international movie superstar, but what I am is cooler. Not really. Then, of course, we have the alternative aspect. When you compare me and Brad Pitt to one another, really it's hard to find an alternative that can measure up to Brad Pitt. And of course, investment is something that me or Brad Pitt won't have until you really begin dating us and determining how long and how much you've invested into the relationship. Here's the thing. On paper, Brad Pitt versus me, you're probably going to choose Brad Pitt, which means you probably put him on a pedestal. You feel like you're punching above your weight class. It's not the fact that Brad Pitt is better than you or the person you have above you on the pedestal is better than you. It's the fact that you think they are. And this is an important distinction to make. But here's the thing about the pedestal effect. It's ever changing. Based on scenarios, time, how long you're spending in relationships, you can place people above you on the pedestal that were previously below you. You can place people that were initially above you below you. Let's use Brad Pitt as an example. So, satisfaction, alternatives, investment. You've invested enough time into the relationship. Good old Brad, shucks. He's got me beat there. Then, of course, you have the alternative aspect. Well, it's hard to beat Brad Pitt on alternatives, but it's the satisfaction part that he suffers. You tend to be a very jealous person. He has all of these kissing scenes, love scenes. You grow jealous, this makes you less satisfied with the relationship. So maybe instead of looking at Brad Pitt as above you on the pedestal, you place him equal to you or even below you on the pedestal. But let's use a different example. Let's actually use what happens, or what I've seen happen, with most of our clients and their exes. Now, one of the things I found really interesting when I would talk to our clients' exes was how many of their exes had them initially placed above them on the pedestal. They felt like they were punching above their weight class, so to speak. But as the time went on and the relationship went on and fights would occur and natural things would, disagreements, you know, the whole thing, their ex would start to place them below and below and below until eventually they kind of felt better than them. When the breakup occurred, the natural assumption the ex had was, well, I am above them on the pedestal. I can find someone better than them. Many of our clients go through a breakup. What is the first thing that they do? They beg for their exes back. They chase their exes, which all that ends up doing is reaffirming their belief that, you know what, I am better than them. I am winning this breakup. So there's no leverage that you have when eventually you try to win them back or even sometimes move on. They're always making fun of you or making you feel like you're inferior or doing this thing that upsets you, and it prevents you from moving on. And that's a problem. If you have been following my YouTube channel for a while now, you will have noticed that I have undergone kind of a substantial culture shift with our content. We used to be really focused on helping people win their exes back. We're still focused on that. Not gonna lie. It's just that we've learned what really works is the ability to outgrow your ex. And if you're not able to outgrow your ex, you're really not able to get them back. Here's the fun thing. We've actually found research to back this up. For example, we found most of our clients' exes tend to be avoidant by nature. By moving on, you allow the avoidant the ability to not only grieve you, but have nostalgia-based feelings for you. So there's that. But there's also some other interesting studies. Now, according to a new theory from Erica Eden, the founder of a dating website called Little Nudge, she found that the less someone responds or reciprocates to one's advances, the more perceived value their pursuer thinks the person has. So by chasing your ex, you lose whatever perceived value you could have had. By not chasing your ex, you raise the perceived value. This is even further backed up by a couple of researchers at the University of Rochester. So playing hard to get makes it seem as if you are more in demand. We call that having higher mate value, says Harry Reese, a professor of psychology and Dean's professor in arts, sciences, and engineering at Rochester. People who are too easy to attract may be perceived as more desperate, says co-author Gerrit Birnbaum. Again, apologize for the mispronunciation. A social psychologist and associate professor of psychology at the IDC Hereliza. That makes them seem less valuable and appealing than those who do not make their romantic interest apparent right away. Essentially, this is all research saying chasing your ex is bad. Playing hard to get is good. So, by not chasing your ex, you give yourself the opportunity to break out of the below pedestal area and kind of come into the above pedestal area. But here's the other interesting twist that no one ever talks about. Sure, you can go to YouTube, you can find a billion different of my peers talking about moving on from an ex and why that's good and blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. No one ever talks about the fact that it needs to be authentic. You can't just pretend it. At one point I thought you could, but you really can't. When I actually interviewed our success stories, people who succeeded at getting their ex back by moving on from their ex, I would ask them, hey, can you fake this? Can you pretend? Can you fake it till you make it? And they would always resoundingly say, no. You've been with your ex probably for a long time. Your ex knows you better than the average person probably would know you. They can tell when you're being inauthentic. They can tell when you're going to social media, you're posting all of this stuff there to try to get their attention. They can tell that that is a ploy to try to make them jealous. But they can also tell when you're being authentic. And it's not something that they have to verbalize. It's something that they feel, something that they can see and ultimately know. So going back to the pedestal theory, your ex naturally assumes that you hold them on a pedestal. Well, when they suddenly realize that you don't, that's when their entire worldview comes crashing down. That's when they start looking at you more as an equal and sometimes place you above them.